All right, inbox providers just made an insanely big update that is going to change the entire way that your emails land in the inbox. And if you're sending emails the same way that you were last month by slicing images from Figma, then you're being penalized. The same way that you were sending last month is the same thing that's going to cost you thousands of dollars this month. So pay attention because it is a huge update. I want to make sure that you are absolutely flexible and that you're equipped by the end of this video on exactly what to avoid, number one. Number two, stay well informed on the updates, which I'm going to tell you about. And most importantly, later on in the video, I'm going to show you the exact step-by-step to make sure that your emails land in the inbox regardless of any future updates. So let's jump straight into it. Now let's talk about the main new change, which is essentially that Apple email or Apple is basically introducing an AI summarizer. So whereas previously you were just going into an email, you have to read through it to understand what's being said, AI is just going to summarize all of it for you, which means that the way of sending has completely shifted. Now what they're prioritizing is number one, making sure that your core value is summarized within like 2 sentences in the email. Number two, making sure that all of the CTAs are actually readable HTML instead of being image-based, which a lot of brands do. The third thing is making sure that the text and alt text is included within the email instead of just images. And most importantly, they're ensuring that emails are summarized and skimmable instead of these prolonged emails that a lot of brands are doing as well. So the simple solution is probably switching away from doing your sliced images in Figma and making sure that you learn from today how to do drag and drop emails within your innate ESP. So for example, with Klaviyo, it is very easy to do the drag and drop, and with whatever provider you do happen to be using, but we always recommend Klaviyo. So let's take a look at the risk comparison based on build methods. The number one build method that most people use, which is also the highest risk, is slicing images from Figma. Taking images directly from Figma and plugging them into your email marketing ESP for your campaigns is going to penalize you the most because there's no way for AI to summarize exactly what's in that email. You need to make it readable and at least add some alt text onto that. The second build method, which is the safest for most brands, is just using the drag and drop features, making sure that you're not hyper prioritizing images, but making sure that you're using the text drops and that you're using the image drops where necessary, but not to take over the email. And most importantly, using the actual button drag and drops instead of including them in the actual hero visuals. So option number two is the safest for most brands. Now going on to option number three, which is the absolute safest, but also the most complicated, is HTML built emails as well as hand-coded emails. Not many people know how to do this. Even most agencies rely strictly on slicing, but the times are changing. So I recommend you either find a resource that knows how to do this or you learn how to do it in-house. All right, now, as I said just now, the main update is actually around CTAs. This is one of the most critical parts of the update. So here's what they expect from your CTAs from now on. Number one, your button text needs to be simple and describe the action that you want them to take very simply. Don't try to overcomplicate it. Instead of saying, take a look, you need to say, shop now. Instead of saying, recover your cart, you need to say, return to your cart, complete your order. All of those are going to make a huge difference to your CTA performance. Second, always use HTML or the drag and drop buttons. Do not put them in the images. This is going to penalize you massively. And most importantly, similar to what I just said, do not embed links within the images. That should not be your CTA. So with that being said, let's go through an entire step-by-step, which is about 7 points, going over how you can ensure that you're landing in the inbox from now on. Number one, let's start with the subject line and the pre-header. The subject line needs to be summarized and explain exactly what the email is actually about. And the pre-header needs to make sure that it is giving context. So let's say that you're sending out an email about sleep products. You need to say your order is ready to ship. And then the follow-up is going to say melatonin-free free shipping. So all of this extra information that you would usually put and build out an entire email over, you need to figure out how to summarize the core points of the email within the subject line and the pre-header. Then the second thing that you absolutely have to do is summarize the core point of your email within 2 lines in the email. Because AI is focusing on simplicity and it's only going to take the first few lines of your email and use that as context for the reader, you want to make sure that you're optimizing for that. You kind of need to assume moving forward that the only things they're going to see is your subject line, the sender name, and the first 2 lines of your email. So optimize for that. Previously, you want a hook, you kind of want to build body text. Don't do that anymore. Try and summarize as much as possible in the first 2 lines, and then you can extend your copy. And that brings me to the next point of writing for skimmability. It is no longer the era of trying to one-up each other by building the longest copy, or, if you take a look at what your competitors are doing, they're building these super long image-based emails. That is not what is going to work anymore. To make sure that you're landing in the inbox and that people are actually seeing your email as well as being summarized correctly, you need to write for skimmability, and that is the new way forward within email marketing from now on. Next, which we spent a lot of time on, is you need one clear call to action. Way too often do I see brands having multiple mixed call to actions. Number 1 is buy now. Number 2, take a look. Number 3, recover. Whatever it is, don't do that anymore. Some people try to get clever with the CTA, and that used to work, but it does not work anymore. What's working now is making sure there's one clear CTA, and if you have multiple CTAs within the email, it needs to be repetitive. Otherwise, the AI summarizer is going to get really confused with what the intention is, and it's probably going to confuse your audience as well. So instead of making anything complicated, you want to make sure that they know immediately, complete your order. Make it very action focused versus trying to get clever with the copy. Next, you need to start leaning into very consistent sending habits. And what I mean by that is, number 1, have a consistent send from name. So instead of sending from Tim from Nama or from wherever it is, you want to make sure that you're actually sending from the consistent same name, number 1. Number 2, you don't want to change your cadence too much. So what I mean by that is, if you were sending 20 emails last month, don't drop down to 5 emails this month. Try your best to keep it as consistent as possible. And of course, this is kind of a given. You need to make sure that you have a warmed up domain and a well-protected domain. Now, the next point is that you need to realize that open rates are not a reliable metric anymore. You have to start to accept that they're increasingly becoming more meaningless, because if AI can just summarize an email and you make your decision based on that, open rates are not going to count anymore. If AI summarizes the email and says, hey, you can go to the website and use the code LUCKY20 for 20% off on St. Patrick's Day, they don't need to open up your email. They're just going to go to their browser, they're going to click through, and they're going to use that code. So make sure that you are not relying on open rates. These are not going to be a reliable metric. And as it is with Apple's ID policies or their security policies, this is becoming less meaningful anyway. Now, lastly, which is kind of the core point of this entire video, is you need to start summarizing your emails. We're no longer adapting to these long form emails. We need to make sure it's summarized, that it's simple, and that it is optimized for Apple users. And if you really want, you can run some split tests and have a separate email that goes out to Gmail and a separate one that goes out to Apple. And you can see which one performs and make sure that Apple is catered to. But I personally would make sure it's optimized along the whole way. So with that being said, you have a very clear way of knowing exactly what the next steps are to take to make sure you're landing in the inbox and what to look out for. The market is completely shifting. The way that emails are being sent, I have a feeling it's going to change forever. So just pay attention. I am going to continue making videos about the updates so that you're not lost. So go down below, subscribe, wait for the next few videos, and I'll keep you updated. But if you are a brand that is worried about these updates and you don't have the bandwidth to go and do the drag and drops and make sure that these things are being done correctly, go down below, book in a call with our agency. We do this for our clients so they don't have to worry. We're the experts in the field. We work with hundreds of brands and we make sure that every single one of them is ahead of this curve. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next one, and I hope that you fix your deliverability today.